Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas and welcome to the 16th video in a series of game development tutorials on how to make your own visual novel style game in Unity. In this tutorial we'll add in a main menu as well as a few other scenes, and we'll create a cool main menu using some of the techniques combined that we've learned so far. Remember to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with every tutorial I upload. Feel free to leave a comment and drop a like. I also have a Patreon page where you can help be a part of this channel, and you'll also find all the scripts and the assets to this series there too, along with plenty of other things. You can also now join as a free member. Now, on with the tutorial. So, up until now, we've learned a couple of different things and how to create things like animation, how things like randomization, how to change scenes, all things like that. Well, now we can kind of start bringing all of this together to create an encompassing version of our game, i.e., we've got our main menu that leads to our game. We can, save the game and we can quit out, all stuff like that. So, in the next couple of tutorials, all of this will come together as one nice package. And what we need to do to start that off is create a couple of scenes. Now, two of the scenes that we are going to create here, we're not actually going to use in this tutorial. They'll be kind of preparation for the future in the next couple of tutorials. So firstly, let's actually create a main menu scene, and then we'll create the other scenes that we are going to use later on. So let's go to File, New Scene, and Built-in 2D, and Create, and then File, Save As, and go to our scenes, and we'll just call this one Main Menu. And rather than go through that whole process again, all we can do is take that main menu, hold Control, press D, and hold Control, press D again. Just duplicate that. The first one is going to be Splash Screen, and then the second one will be just credits. So you've already probably guessed what they are going to be used for. They're going to be later on in this whole development cycle. Before we go any further, what we will do is we will go to the build settings and we'll add our open scenes. And again, if you're in Unity 6, this will be a little bit different, but it's generally the same process. You just need to add in the scenes. So we currently have 5 scenes here. Let's add the ones that we have just created. So we'll add in credits, we'll add in main menu, and we'll add in splash screen. So splash screen is now going to be scene 0. So put that at the top. Main menu will be scene 1. And credits can be, well, we'll leave it as 4 for now, but obviously it could be 3 if you wanted it to be, or, whatever you need it to be. But what this does mean is before we can actually create this main menu, we need to make sure that our scripts link to the correct place. So our first scene is going to be scene 2 now, and the park scene is going to be scene 3. So let's go to our script. Let's go to scene 1 and into the event script. This is only just a quick little run through at this point. There's less scenes you have at this point, it's easier. So if you've been following along with me, we'll get to a point where you can basically develop this much further with everything you've learned. So once this loads, all we need to do is go to where we have our scene switching. So scene manager, load scene, and we just need to change this to 3. So that's all we need to do in terms of the additional scenes that we have. So if you remember, the splash screen is 0, main menu is 1, this scene is 2, so the next scene is 3. So once we've done that, let's head back into Unity, let it compile, and then let's start building our main menu. Now, the good thing about this is because we've learned most of the techniques already, we don't need to worry too much about what we're doing with the main menu. Once we get into it, we're going to combine a couple of things just to see what we can do, see if it, kind of looks all right. So let's go into scenes. Let's clear the console. And let's go into main menu. Now, the idea of this is it's a very Japanese kind of thing. And I want it to be, well, when you see what we create in this tutorial, you'll get the idea of what we're trying to create with this visual novel. Let's go to game object. Let's go to UI and let's go to raw image. And let's call this raw image background. Let's set it anchoring stretch. So we know we've got to 0, 0, 0, 0. So it stretches the whole screen. We'll keep it white. Next thing I'm going to do is add in some textures that we can use for our main menu. So let's go to our assets folder and let's right click, create, and let's create a new folder. And we'll just call this textures. So these are just generic textures that we can use for our main menu. And I'm going to bring in these 4 textures, which you can get for free. You can download them if you go to the pinned comment. Download them there. And I've come up with a name of this game. It's just called Last Reflection because it sounds Japanesey, the sort of this style Japanese game that you would expect to see. Let's now set our canvas as scale, as we've done with others. Let's set our resolution, 1920, 1080, and match it exactly in the middle, so 0.5. Next, let's add in this kind of logo thing. And you'll see just how quickly we're kind of going along here. I'm hoping that you're going just as quick as I am because you've already learned a lot of this information. We'll call this logo. And let's stretch it a little bit, bring it maybe center, and let's drag and drop the logo onto there. And stretch it a little bit more. Let's create the bitmaps of it. There we go. So what does that look like in game? Cool. Now what I want to do is I want to animate that. So let's go to animations. You know, we've done all this before. So this is really how quickly you can kind of put things together. Let's go to animation. Let's click on create. And we'll have logo fade in. And we'll press the record button. We'll set our first keyframe. Our first keyframe is going to be completely see-through, so it's going to be 0 on the alpha. We'll do it for 2 seconds, and after 2 seconds, we'll have it completely visible with the alpha. Let's press the stop record button. Let's go to project and logo fade in. Let's untick loop time. Finally, let's actually change the alpha on our logo to 0. Cool. So that we've already learned about animation and how to incorporate it. So that's that. Let's now combine 2 elements of things we've learned. So let's have some fading images come in randomly. And again, we'll be able to kind of speed through this because we've done it before. So let's go to our textures here. And we've got these 3 images here. So we can go to Game Object, UI, and let's go to Raw Image. Stretch that using the rect tool, and let's add the first one in. Perfect. But what we'll do is let's actually generate the bitmaps first. Again, you don't necessarily have to. It's just something that I'm happy to do. Again, we've learned about that. So there's our first image. Yeah, that looks okay. Obviously, you would take a bit more time to make it look nice. And we'll say MM1. And next thing we'll do, in fact, I'm just going to call it MM just for convenience's sake. Next, let's go to animations and let's just animate this. So let's place it in the middle there. And let's actually set the alpha to 0 already. I kind of want it to fade across in and then fade out again. So let's go to animation, create, and let's say MM fade, and then press record. So obviously the first keyframe is going to be a 0 on the alpha, and then frame 120 we'll say is going to be fully faded in, so 255. And we'll also, oops, that wasn't meant to happen, I meant to click on that. Press record again, there we go. So what we'll also do is over 2 seconds we will move the image over this way. We'll move it just by 3, so we'll say 730. Oops, that should not be there. That should be 727 on the first keyframe. Apologies. It should be frame 120 that we want to move it to 730. And what we'll do is do another 2 seconds. So at frame 240, we'll have this as 733. And then another 2 seconds, we'll fade it out again. So let's say frame, 360? And we'll just have this as position 736. And the color on the alpha faded out completely. Let's stop the record and let's go to MM fade, untick, and let's press play and just see how this looks right now. Hopefully it should look okay. We just want some visuals to kind of There we go. So I'm happy with that. I don't think it actually moved, did it? Did it move? I don't think it did. Oh, it did very, very slightly. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. You could obviously, have that expanded a bit more. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another one. So let's go to Game Object. Let's go to UI. Let's go to Raw Image. Let's have this as MM2. And let's add in the next texture. So let's have Haruka in there. Let's use the rect tool and expand a little bit. And we'll have her just there. So let's create a quick animation for her. Let's have alpha as 0 again. And let's go to animation, create. We'll have this as fade 2. Press record. And let's set our keyframes. So 386 and -151. And alpha, we do want it to be 0 as well. So frame 120, we'll have this fully faded in. So we'll have 255, and we'll have the position on the Y as -161. Next, let's go to frame 240. Then let's have -171. And then finally, frame 360 will be -181. And the color we'll have as alpha 0. And stop the recording. Finally, let's do the third one, if indeed you want to. So let's go raw image once again. Let's have this one somewhere here, and let's add our third texture, which is that one. Let's expand how big it is. So probably about there. Does that look okay? Yeah, I think that should be okay. Let's do that up to about there. And I think I'm just going to fade this one. So let's set the color as 0 on the alpha. And let's go to animations, animation once again, create and fade 3. Let's press record. Let's set that first keyframe. So there we go, 0 on the alpha. And then frame 120. And we'll have full alpha. And frame 240. Again, we'll have full alpha. And frame 360, we'll set it to 0. Stop recording to project, and let's make sure that all 3 of those are now untick loop time. And I'm going to press play just to see what they look like. It's not going to be the end result of what we want it to look like, but we should be able to kind of gauge a little bit about this now. Cool. I'm happy with that. So now let's add in some buttons which are going to be used for our game. So game object, let's go to UI and let's go to button. Now we've already dealt with buttons, so we're not going to go into this too much. So I'm going to expand that a little bit. Have that round about there. And let's now play around with this. So let's have this as start game, and let's increase that font maybe to 100. How's that look? Yeah, I think it looks okay. The button itself, I am going to have normal color as completely 0 on the alpha, so it kind of looks like that. And let's now duplicate, in fact, let's rename the button first. So start game, and hold control, press D, and let's bring this down to probably about there. Let's have this as load game. Load game, and let's change the text on there as well. So load game. And once again, let's hold control, press D, duplicate it, and let's drag that down to about there. And let's call this credits, and rename the text to credits. And then finally, one more, hold control, press D. Let's bring it down a little bit more. And we'll just call this quit game. So obviously the name of the button as well, quit game. So that's how it currently looks. So our main menu will look a little bit like this. Next thing we'll do is let's add in a quick bit of randomization for these images. So MM2 and MM3. I just want one to appear, constantly all the time, just to give it a bit more something. So next thing, let's go to our scripts folder. And as this is going to be just a main script, it's not involved in any of our scenes per se. Let's right click, create a new script, and we'll call this main menu. So let's go into this script. And this script itself will contain many other methods as well, not just what we're creating here. But first and foremost, let's get rid of our annotations. I'm going to keep the start and update methods. So what we'll do is we will serialize field, and we will have game object, and I'll put menu pick one. And then if we press return, it should automatically do 2 and 3 for us if we just press the tab key. Next thing we need to do, we need to serialize field and say int, and this will be pick num. By default, we will make it equal to 1. So we've always got a value. Next thing, we need to create a coroutine, and we've done coroutines before. So let's say hi enumerator random pick, close bracket, and open curly bracket. So what we'll do is we will yield return new, wait for seconds, and we'll just wait for 1 second first off. Next thing we'll do is we'll say pick num equals random dot range, and we've got 3, so we can say 1 as the minimum, 4 as the maximum, because we can generate 1, 2, and 3. Then we can do a quick if statement and say if, and then pick num equals 1, then do the following, and it's going to be menu pick 1 dot set active, and in brackets true. And also after that, we need to say that pick 2 needs to be set as false because we don't want it to be on. And again for that. So 2 and 3 are false. And now we can copy that if statement and paste it 2 times below. And then we can say if it's equal to 2, then pick 1 is set as false, and pick 2 is set as true. And then if the third if statement says if it's 3, then menu pick 1 is set as false, and menu pick 3 equals true. And just to add more to this, we know that this whole animation takes 6 seconds, so we're going to wait for 7 seconds just to give it a little bit more time. Yield, return, new, wait for seconds, and in brackets, 7 with a semicolon. Next thing we need to do is we need to set a bool because we need to control whether we are playing an animation or not. So serialize field, and we'll say bool, and we'll call it is animating. By default, we'll make that equal to false. So that means in the update method, we need to put if is animating equals false, then do the following with open curly bracket. Firstly, is animating equals true, just so we can't repeat this process. And then we'll say start coroutine, and in brackets, the name of the coroutine we've just written. So random pick, close bracket again, semicolon. And that means that if we go down now, after our yield of waiting for 7 seconds, we just need to put the bool back on. So is animating equals true, semicolon, and save. And if you have any problems with this, head to that link in the pinned comment and you'll be able to download it for free. So let's quickly head back into Unity. Let's add all this together and then we'll talk about the next tutorial. So let's go to game object, create empty, and we'll call this menu control, and then drag and drop the main menu script onto menu control. Let's add those variables in. 1, 2, 3. And then let's turn those 3 off. So select them all, untick, and let's press play and see how this pans out. Give it a second just to bring it together. So we should have our logo come in, and then there's our first picture, and she should fade out. Hopefully, the next one should appear. And it hasn't. So let's have a quick look what has been generated in our menu control. So it is 3 again. So I just think we need to set the loop time back on. Should we do that? Let's see what happens if we turn it off. Of course, one crucial thing Jimmy forgot. We have to turn everything off at the end, because if it generates the same number again, it won't work. So what we can do is let's take those 3, and after the 7 seconds, set them all as false. And like I say, if you have problems, you can download this script for free. Head back into Unity, and now we should see this all working as intended. It's gone on a little bit longer than I would have liked this tutorial, but it's incredible the amount we've actually achieved in this small amount of time, because creating a main menu isn't just as simple as, just in buttons on there and doing something. Well, it is, but to have it looking, unique in some way. Hopefully this will generate a new number, but it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to. So something has clearly gone astray there. I think we need to set that as false, not true. There we go. So a lot of the time when you try and debug a lot of these things, you'll just instantly know that that's the reason, because we're not resetting the whole cycle here. So that's the reason why it wasn't working. So third time lucky, here we go. And as this is playing out now, we'll talk about the next tutorial. So let's just get this going. So there we go. Generating the first one. And we should get the second one. There we go. So next tutorial, what we're going to do is we are going to have these buttons functioning as they should do, as intended. We'll add some music, and we'll also add some sound effects to pressing the buttons as well. And we'll get them working just right. So you can see that this looks very, at this point, Japanesey, I guess, this style of game that you would expect to see. Obviously, you take much more time than what I've done here. I've kind of rushed through a lot of this to kind of get to the end result. Feel free to use this logo if you want to. If you want to create a game called Last Reflection, it doesn't really matter. It's just something I made in about 2 minutes. And yeah, so next tutorial, like I say, it's going to be a lot of fun like this one, because I always find main menus a lot of fun to work with, just to give them that extra visualization. So yeah, you keep going with your main menu, and remember to subscribe, click notification bell, stay up to date with every tutorial I upload, and I'll see you next time.